All the excitement of horse racing, the stories along the backside, expert analysis of the big race. This is Inside Track, presented by the Fairgrounds Racecourse and Slots. And here's your host of Inside Track, Charlie Ricks and Bernie Halprin.
Okay, with us now, we love having the top trainers on the program, and today is no exception. Future Hall of Famer, as Bernie mentioned a while ago, is Larry Jones, and very popular, very much a winning trainer over the years here at the Fairgrounds, nationwide for that moment. I mean, he's won 2 Kentucky Oaks. So, Larry Jones, welcome to Inside Track.
Welcome to be with you today.
Thank you. And I'm detecting a little, is that an accent there? Give us a little the roots here of Larry Jones.
Well, it's from Western Kentucky. Yeah. Yes, and so that's where it comes from, and now traveled all over, and could have a little Cajun added in, along with a little New England. Who knows?
That's Charlie. It's the pride of Hopkinsville, Kentucky. First of all, but let me give you a little insight just to the listeners, so they know we're sitting with greatness here. Larry's career. I went to Equibase. I pulled up your stats. You've started 4,825 horses. 19.5% winning percentage. That's just staggering. 47.5% of them in the money. Almost 50% of your horses in the money. $40 million in career earnings. Did you ever think it would go this far?
I never had a clue, because if you look at the first 3 years when we got started, I think I amassed maybe 20,000 in 3 years. So yeah, it was really good.
Good thing you didn't give up.
No, perseverance pays.
You know, and I'm going to tell you the reason that he didn't give up, and this is one thing I love about Larry Jones. Larry Jones is a horseman. Now, there's other trainers that are trainers, but Larry Jones gets up on those horses. Larry Jones almost died last year falling off of a horse with a massive head injury, and as soon as he gets out of the hospital, he waits a couple of weeks and he's back on the horse.
Yeah, you know, God takes care of cowboys some kind of way, so right back up I got. So, no, it was good.
Hey, you know, and I was just thinking of what you just said, Bernie, that I was going to ask you, because I see you when you're in the paddock, you walk your horses around the circle like that. I don't see a lot of other trainers doing that, but you do it for every horse I see you have racing at the fairgrounds. So, obviously, does that have an effect? I mean, the horses know we got to run well for Larry because he's taking care of us.
Well, I don't know if it's that, but in case something goes wrong, I can only blame myself. I don't have anybody else to blame.
But he's just hands-on. You know, you hear the old cliche, hands-on. Some people throw that around loosely. This guy's hands-on, just as you alluded to, Mitch. You see him in the paddock. You see him on horseback. He's not a little guy. A lot of the trainers that get up on their horses are ex-jockeys. When Angel Cordero gets up on a horse, nobody blinks an eye. Larry Jones with the 10-gallon hat, it's like that's a big guy to be up on a horse.
Yeah, it's but I've done it all my life. I wasn't this big when I started, and I just never quit when I kept growing.
There you go.
Now, Larry, we look at your body of work. You've won the Peter Pan Stakes. I like that race, the Kentucky Oaks a couple of times. You won the Louisiana Derby, the Risen Star, LeCompte, all the big races here at the Fairgrounds nationwide. We had a horse owner with us a few minutes ago, Bobby Acero, and we asked Bobby if he could recall his first race ever as an owner, and I kind of gave him my story, my background, and my first one, where the horse got left at the gate during my first race. Can you recollect your first race ever as a trainer?
Oh, absolutely. The first trained horse that I ever did was a horse named Bendane. I trained him for Frank and Mrs. Shirley Pitzer up in Kentucky. And my first win as an owner happened to be before that, because I was an owner to start with, and tried to make the suggestion to my trainer that I thought he could do things different, and he thought if I could do it better, told me if I could do it better, do it myself. So anyway, I started. But the first one I had was a filly named Alaturf, and back in 1979, I guess it was.
But, you know, I'll tell you, I was at the fairgrounds with my wife a couple of Fridays ago for Starlight Racing. It was the night before the Silver Bullet Day. I actually met, just by chance, I met the president of your fan club, Mike Presley.
Yes.
He was up in the clubhouse. I'll tell you, he just couldn't say enough superlatives about you. The guy loves you to death. He thinks you walk on water. But all kidding aside, he's just basically said that you're his go-to guy. And I said to him, I said, Mike, I know Larry, obviously a great horseman, but I see him do a lot of his finest work with fillies. And he said, that's because I keep sending him fillies.
Well, that is true, and we've had so much success for Mike and some of his partners. I mean, we've just been very blessed with him. He's a great fellow, and luck seems to follow him. So I try to keep him close as well. He just everything he touches seems like it turns to gold. And but no, it's I think the reason I have more success with fillies is because the word's got out, and that's what the people send me. Yeah. I get more fillies in my barn than we do colts, and so you train what you have. and that's what we get.
Hey, I was looking on Wikipedia, and they didn't. And one of your horses I love, Havre de Grace. Is that the correct pronunciation?
That's right.
I love that horse, and it wasn't mentioned with hard spun and some of the other horses, but that horse was one of the great horses you trained.
You know, she was the horse of the year. That's the only horse of the year I've ever trained, and needless to say, she was champion older female. And I tell everybody, the nearest thing to a perfect horse that I have ever got to fool with in my life. She was just awesome in all aspects.
She was certainly a push-button horse, no doubt, just pure class. Now, let me ask you this. Talking about fillies, is there, as a horseman, is there a different methodology that you use? Do you have to back off of them a little bit more? Do you have to be a little bit more gentle with them? What do you do with fillies that you wouldn't necessarily do with colts and geldings?
Well, I really don't know, but my wife tells me to treat them just like I would treat her, and I know I never want to make her mad.
Right.
And if I can keep her happy, she works a lot better.
Right.
So we just use that aspect on the fillies as well, and it seems like it works.
And you've got a great formula. I mean, your wife, when you were injured, I mean, she's great with racehorses as well, and she held down the fort like a champion.
You know, she is the hidden asset here. She is such a wonderful person with all animals. You know, thank goodness horses are in there. But whether it be dogs or birds, a parrot, or whatever, she can train anything. You know, we always used to laugh, and she was my version of Ellie Mae Clampett. You bring an animal in. We've had ferrets, we've had raccoons, we've had everything that she has trained to be house animals, and she's wonderful.
If you can domesticate a raccoon, you can do anything.
Sure.
Well, you know, you get marital advice here too beyond training. So
Okay, we're here with trainer Larry Jones, and we mentioned you won 2 Kentucky Oaks, 2008. You won with Proud Spell. You came back in 2012, won it with Believe You Can. But in 2009, you had a horse in the Kentucky Derby. Frisian Fire was the favorite in that race. What happened?
Well, everything that could happen for a bad trip for Frisian Fire happened. We got in a world of trouble in the first turn, and actually come out with some of Pioneer of the Nile's vet wrap in my shoe. When we got back to the barn, there it was. And I got to run into Bob the next morning at Cracker Barrel and ask him if he had a bandage tore up. And he said, as a matter of fact, there was just a perfect circle in it. He said, there's no mark on the horse. But that's how close they were running. And Frisian Fire decided at that time, like, I don't think I'm going to like this. And then when we got shuffled back, he never could recover.
Do you think there's any reason to limit the number of horses in the Kentucky Derby? Because you know you have 20 horses most of the time, and does it just make it so difficult that you have to have a lot of racing luck? The racing gods have to be with you to win that race?
Well, there's no doubt about what you're saying is being true. The best horse does not always win the Kentucky Derby. You've got to be, you know, good enough to get you a good trip and try to work you out a good trip. And I was very fortunate with Hard Spun. He was that kind of horse to jump out on the front end, and he made sure he got a good trip, whether he had to pay the price for it or not. And then we wasn't as fortunate with the next one. You know, we was an early pace up and got a pretty good run, but it was a little bit of a late run behind Big Brown. And then Frisian Fire just had a terrible trip in there. So, but as far as limiting the 20, you know, that's what makes it the Kentucky Derby. That's why it's the one race of the year, and that is so far different than all the other races. And no, I think the way it's going, that's fine.
Well, you know, real estate's at a premium when you've got a 20-horse field. And so, as you said, Larry, the best horse not only doesn't always win, often doesn't win the Kentucky Derby. That's why we've got the Triple Crown Series. That's why you have the Preakness to settle some scores, and then the Belmont to see if your pedigree will have enough stamina to let you do what you got away with in the Derby and the Preakness perhaps. But let me mention this. Now, obviously, this is bittersweet, but one of your great trainees was 8 Bells. And I know that was, first of all, she was just brilliant. And as a racing fan, I loved her. And unfortunately, there's so much emotion involved because these are beautiful but fragile animals. And it's not going to always be a happy ending to every story. I believed that year, and when you were under some criticism by people that just had a knee-jerk reaction, and that was pure emotion from those folks, but I said that filly punched her ticket to the Derby. She earned it on the racetrack. She had done everything she could do with the Phillies. Was that your mindset?
Well, it really was, and we looked over the boys and all their numbers and stuff, and we knew she fit. And she had more racing than anyone. She had a better background than most of the one. If you remember, Big Brown was coming in Derby off of just 3 races in his life. Curlin had tried that the year before and did not work, or 2 years. Yeah, it was the year before.
Yeah, it was.
That didn't work. And so we was just kind of hoping that it wasn't going to work for him as well. And then with him drawing the 20 hole, we really thought, well, it's not going to work well for him. So we felt like we had the right horse at the right time. And stature-wise, she matched with the boy. She was so big, and she just really fit in with them. You know, I remember Leroy Jolly came over. He had won the Derby with Genuine Risk, and Wayne Lucas had won it with Winning Colors. They both come by the barn and looked at her, and they'd seen the way she had been running, and they both said, Larry, you know, you've got the right horse at the right time. They would do it. So here's the last two to win with Phillies, so why not take their advice?
Yeah, I think it was a good calculated risk. Unfortunately, she was ill-fated, and that's the unfortunate part.
She ran second.
She did. Oh, she ran her eyeballs out. But unfortunately, what I was going to say is, you know, there's some things in this sport you can't control. That like, they're magnificent, but they're so fragile. And if there was anything we could change about the game, that would be what it was. We'd want them to all be sturdy. It doesn't always work out that way.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, we had a lot of people come up and was talking about the tracks. But, you know, I really think that if we were swimming these horses in swimming competitions for racing and a horse winds up dying or cramping up and going underwater, it would happen somewhere sooner or later, and then we'd be criticized for that as well. So, but with any athlete, and I've always said the best owners I ever trained for as far as understanding were professional athletes. I've trained for a couple of professional basketball players and college players, and when you told them their horse got injured, it's like, well, that's what ended my career.
Yeah.
So they really understand. And the people that I think that criticize the most are people that really weren't athletes themselves. I mean, it looks horrible, but that's it happens in all top of the game athletes.
I'm glad you bounced back from that, because I know that was a tough time in your life, but you just came back like a champion, and you talk about off to a great start this year, Charlie. He's winning with 40% of his starters. Where do you go from there?
We've been very blessed this year, and our horses have fit here at Fairgrounds really well. And when we've shipped out of town, it's just we've taken the right horses at the right time. But I owe it all to the owners. They just send me such magnificent horses. You know, Brary Jones, he raises some of the best horses in the U.S. And then Fox Hill Farms, they go out and buy the best they can get their hands on. So between them, and now Calumet Farm is also in with Brad Kelly. So, yeah, when we get horses from those people, we come up with runners. And it's not because of me, but it's because of them, yeah.
Okay, we're with trainer Larry Jones, future Hall of Famer. One of his horses, I guess Proud Spell, did win the Eclipse Award that year. But let's move up to the present time, Larry. This 2015 Kentucky Derby Trail. You have a couple of hopefuls. Exodus, one of your 3-year-olds, just broke its maiden recently in a $50,000 stakes race at Sam Houston. You have another one that just won on a 2-turn race by the name of Bluff that won by 5.5 lengths. Are you aiming Bluff or Exodus for the Risen Star?
Well, actually, both of them are on the radar, but Bluff is the one that we're really looking at right now, since he's been the longest since he's raced. But he handled 2 turns so well the last race. We got a good trip, and he just kind of looked like had a breakout performance and has trained so well since that race.
What's his pedigree, Larry?
Well, he's by that little sire named Tapit.
He's doing all right.
He is, and comes out of an El Prado mare. And
is he gray?
He is a chestnut, believe it or not. Yes, but we're not going to hold that against him.
Right.
And but you would think Tapit and El Prado had to be gray, but he's come up with chestnut somewhere. And but no, he is really moving forward at the right time, and we feel like he may be our best shot right at this moment. Exodus maybe a little more towards sprint, but he sure ran well the other night at Sam Houston and won for his second consecutive win and moving forward.
You had a couple of good wins a couple of weeks ago, right? So thinking about the Phillies, I'm a Chatterbox, for example. So what about her trail? Where do you see her next?
Well, we're going to keep her away from the boys. That will happen. But no, we're going to be looking at the Rachel Alexandra right here. She just had a breakout performance. That was our first race with her, but I had watched all 3 of her previous races and knew she was a real racehorse and just probably needed more time to get some seasoning under her. But I was very fortunate these owners moved her to us, and we've had good success with them in the past with horses. So, but yeah, we're very excited about her. And then Mr. Jones, once again, he's got a filly trying to look for the Oaks, and a filly by the name of Lovely Maria, which beat one of the top fillies. I thought one of the top fillies here at Fairgrounds the other day. Was very fortunate to beat her, and a filly named Shook Up for the Asmussen barn. And so Lovely Maria, we've got high hopes for, and yeah, we've got a few that acts like they can run a little.
That was my question for the Fairgrounds Oaks, which you've won twice. also the Kentucky Oaks. But lovely Maria, what are you aiming her for in the next race?
Well, she'll be pointing towards Rachel Alexandra as well. Yeah, that will be Kerwin's mount, and Florent will stay on I'm a Chatterbox. And then we'll see if we can get some more racing in some of these others before then.
Well, Larry, let me ask you. You know, Florent Garou is known as a patient rider. When I'm a Chatterbox made the lead under a death grip, he was bent in half. You had to just be like, this is awesome.
Well, I was very happy. And we also had the horse that was running second behind him, and I was very happy that she rated as well as she did. And Kerwin was sitting there thinking he was going to reel her in at any time because both jockeys thought they was on the best horse. But I'm a Chatterbox just broke free. When it come time to go, she just re-broke and went on. And so, no, we're very, very tickled with her.
Yeah, and she ran a better buyer than the Colt winner that day.
She did, and I think she's one of the top fillies now in the nation on her speed figures that she's run. So, yeah, we're very happy and looks forward to what her future is going to look like.
Hard Aces look pretty good, too. I don't know. Can he go to like the New Orleans Handicap? What do you thought?
Well, that's the idea. You know, we've waited 5 years with him. That's one of them that some partners and I have together. We had his mother, and needless to say, I trained his daddy, Hard Spun. So we just kept thinking this horse always showed us signs that he was a nice horse, but it just never would 100% come through on race day. But we just kept thinking, well, just be patient. And the Hard Spuns all got better at 5 last year. So this is the second crop of the Hard Spuns now to turn 5. And it looked like, okay, he realized he was 5. Let's turn it on. And he's trained brilliantly since. So, yeah, he's looking forward to moving on to the Mine Shaft and then hopefully the New Orleans Handicap.
And you're looking healthy. Thank goodness for your recovery from that spill you took a few months back. It's looking really good. Now, they say you gallop your horses in the morning, and when you walked up here, Larry Jones, you look like you could be 6'1". You're a big jockey.
Well, a pretty good size. It was real funny when people would go see Hard Spun. They would say, "Well, I never realized he was so big. He didn't look that big." But I told him, I said, "You got to realize I'm 6 foot, and I'm the exercise rider, and his groom is 6'3.5".
Right.
And so yeah, we make all the horses look small.
Yeah, it reminded me of Wayne Lucas on horseback. Wayne's not a little guy either, and he's got the 10-gallon hat.
That's right. And you got to understand, Mr. Lucas, he's still getting on them every morning. And as far as his ponies, and he's setting that bar pretty high. If I'm going to stay active as long as he has.
Okay, Larry Jones is with us. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to your hopefuls. You got the 3-year-old Fillies, lovely Maria. She's a Chatterbox, and, of course, the 2 colts, Bluff and Exodus, hopefully aimed for the Risen Star. Thank you very much. A pleasure and honor to meet you, and we thank you.